What's up, Switches?
I'm Jennifer,
I'm Cicero.
and this is the Switching Lanes podcast.
Today's topic, stop telling people when they should forgive. It's a personal journey. We chose today's topic on the heels of this high-profile trial that just ended, last week? Botham John, may he rest. And the response that, that we've been seeing out there, that backlash, so to speak, that the family, the brother namely, has been getting for hugging her and forgiving her. And I think it's just crazy how people, I think the focus is all wrong, because that's not what we should be focused on. However, in keeping with tonight's topic, I'm not going to go into that. I'll just say, I think it's just crazy how people are really big mad that the brother decided to forgive this lady and give this lady a hug. And people, of course, when you come in and get into the conversation, people tell you, oh, you don't know how it is, and it's easier said than done, or this, that, and the third. And, I mean, how can you speak on it if you don't know? Well, I know.
Right.
I've experienced that. I've experienced a loved one being murdered. My mom was murdered. And I've had to walk that path of forgiveness to forgive her killer.
Right.
And it wasn't an easy one. It wasn't an easy task. And
how long did it take you to decide to make that conscious decision to forgive him?
I would say I knew in my mind after the trial was over, I knew as a Christian person that I would have to. Now, how long it took me to get to that actual point of actually doing it, I would say about 11 or 12 years. My mom was murdered in 2001, January 1st, 2001. And, January 1st, 2002. So I would say, I would say about 11 years. I started going to my church in 2012. I joined my church. And sometime after that, I talked to my pastor, which probably was about a year or so later. I spoke to my pastor about wanting to do some things with forgiveness myself in regards to talking to people about it and possibly, writing about it. And one part of that journey for me was to deal with my own forgiveness. And so I had to forgive him. So my pastor told me to write a letter to him. And he said, even if you don't send it, write it. He verbalized it. Write what you're thinking. So that's what I did. No, I didn't send a letter. I'm not going to send a letter. I still have it. I know exactly where it is. But I'm not going to send it. But that's my path. That's my journey.
But you actually sitting down and writing out that letter was a milestone in itself. Yeah. That was a huge step to take, to sit down and write that out.
Absolutely. To actually have to sit there and think about it.
Right.
And think about what he had done and what he had taken from us. And to say, I can forgive this person. That's a huge deal. But I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that I have forgiven him. I'm satisfied with his sentence. He'll never get out of jail. Never can go before the parole board. And I'm perfectly satisfied with that. Will I ever go visit him? Nope. Probably not.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, you can never say what you would never do. But right now, where I am in my journey of forgiveness, visiting him is not on that's not on the agenda.
Right.
And reaching out to him one-on-one is not on the agenda. Because even though I wrote that letter, seeing him face to face, I'm not sure what I would say.
Right.
But I just had to let that go. And had to understand that one of the biggest things about forgiving him and with my beliefs, I know that God forgives him. If he seriously repents about that and he seeks God and he opens his heart to God, God forgives him. So I can't not forgive him.
Right.
So that's my journey, and everybody's journey is different. I mean, I was doing my research in this whole thing, and I looked up some other stories because I've seen other stories where the parent of their child's murderer forgave that murderer, the killer. And I mean, I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen it on the news. I've seen, I read the story just now about the Chicago mom who forgave her daughter's killer in 2017. That was 10 years after he killed her. And they write each other now. And then the other lady, Miss Mary Johnson, and I've heard of her before. I looked it up tonight, but I've heard of her before. Her son was killed in 1993 by another teenager, and he was tried as an adult a couple years later, and he was convicted, sentenced to 25 years. And in 2004, she was asked to teach a class on forgiveness by her pastor, and she said that's where it all began. She said God began to deal with her heart. And she said she had told the boy initially after the sentencing that she forgave him, but she really hadn't done it yet.
Which is why she had to be dealt with.
Yeah, she hadn't began her journey. So when she began her journey in 2004, a year later in 2005, she reached out to the Department of Correction and requested a meeting with the young man. And she talked to him, and of course he admitted everything. He apologized for everything, and he was in a different place in his life as well. And they kept in touch, and he was released in 2010, and she arranged a house party for him.
Oh, wow.
She arranged a homecoming party.
Wow.
And then now they're neighbors, and they travel the country
together.
They travel the country teaching about the power of forgiveness. Now, that's like, to me, that's beyond that hug.
It absolutely is.
That Botham Jean's brother gave. That's beyond that. But the reason people are so up in arms about it is because it was a high profile case.
Right.
We're not looking at all these other cases that are smaller, so to speak, because they're not all over the news like this one was. Because this was national news.
Well, for these parents to be able to forgive on such amazing levels, man, that is something powerful. They are really above and beyond in their personal journey with forgiveness. They are on the next level of forgiveness.
Right.
And everybody's level of forgiveness is going to be different. And it's not going to be cut straight across the board for every single situation you deal with. Your level of forgiveness is going to change according to the situation you find yourself in. That's something you have to deal with personally. I've seen people forgive other people, like you said, in court. And I've also seen people jump across that table and go for what they know.
Right.
Everybody's journey is different.
Absolutely.
So
and it's also difficult.
Right. It's extremely difficult. And I think we lose sight of that part.
Right.
We really do. And we're so quick to judge what someone else should have done. And the truth is, you don't know until you're standing in those shoes at that very moment.
Right. And I looked at these cases, and I look at them now, and even my own situation with my mom, and we're talking about forgiveness on the level of someone taking a life. But think about people who won't simply forgive you for breaking their heart. And I know, I don't want to say simply, but compared to being murdered,
right,
and having a heart broken, that's definitely simple.
Absolutely.
I mean, having your heart broken can be catastrophic, but you can bounce back from that, and no one died.
Maybe your mate cheated. Maybe your friend, slipped up and kissed your person that you liked.
Right.
Whatever the case may be, everybody's journey is going to be different with all of those situations. And we have to remember that there's a delicate balance between hate or holding a grudge and simply having boundaries. So when someone may be upset with you and you think that person is still upset with you, maybe they forgave you a long time ago. They simply forgave you with boundaries.
Right.
And they chose never to cross that boundary with you again. Me forgiving you does not mean I have to forget what you did. Me forgiving you does not mean that I have to condone what you did and there are no consequences. I can absolutely put boundaries in place and say, I forgive you. I release this negative energy from myself.
Yeah.
And I'm going to move on. I hope you have a wonderful life. I wish you no ill will, but I'm gone.
And that's what people fail to realize. Forgiving you doesn't mean I have to let you back in my life.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean I have to let you back in my life.
Right.
I don't have to let you back in my home. I don't have to offer you a ride if I see you standing on the street.
Right.
I just wish you safety and I keep on moving.
Exactly.
So I think that's the big misconception about forgiveness. People think if you forgive somebody, that's why they always tell you, when you forgive a boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, are you stupid? No, I'm not.
Right.
I'm not taking them back. I just forgive them.
Right.
I mean, I can honestly truly say I don't think I've really had any bad breakups because everybody I've broken up with, I'm cool with. Like, we're not like hanging out or anything, but like if I see them, I'm not gonna run across the street to avoid them. Like, hey, how you been? Good to see you.
And keep it moving.
And keep it moving. There is no, it's not necessarily, call me later. It's none of that. But
me forgiving you does not mean that I have to be a fool for you.
It's a genuine, friendly smile. Mm-hmm. Hey, how are you? I'm glad to see that you are all right. And I definitely don't wish any ill will against anyone that I've previously been in a relationship with and we broke up. I wish all the best. I've even prayed for some of my exes. It is what it is. So I think that misconception is always there when people think about forgiveness. They feel like that means you got to fall back into some old traps, and you don't.
Definitely, and that's where those boundaries come in, that you can forgive that person, put some boundaries in place. You choose what your level of forgiveness is, and you choose what your boundaries are and how far you go with that person in the future. Now, if you fall in and decide to repeat all this over again, that was a personal choice you made.
Absolutely.
I don't have to jump right back into wherever we left off. Let's say it was a relationship and you cheated and I forgave you. Doesn't mean I have to take you back. I forgive you. And we're going to move on. I'm going to let you go on and finish exploring whatever it was you were looking for. And I'm going to move on with my life. I have forgiven people who weren't sorry at all. I have people who I still have not forgiven.
Oh, I've forgiven people who haven't even apologized.
I've forgiven people who have not apologized. And
they haven't apologized or acknowledged their behavior. And you know what?
Right.
To hold on to it only frustrates me because, of course, they're just going to pick up. They're going to pick up and go on to their next victim.
Right. They don't give a crap. They have already moved on. Their mind is somewhere else. Yeah. And you still harboring this negative energy that's upsetting you and weighing you down and making you feel however because you are holding on to it and they are not.
Right. So, forgiveness for me has definitely been easy in certain situations. Definitely. In certain, it was rough with my mom's situation, but other situations, forgiveness has definitely been easy for me because I've never been a grudge holder.
Right. I'm not either, actually. I'm not much of a grudge holder. Like I said, there are some people that I have had some trouble forgiving, and I can absolutely tell the difference. When I'm thinking of any other person, the air around me is completely different from when I think of these people that I have not forgiven. And in my mind, I'm still struggling with believing that I can forgive them. That the air is heavier and darker and everything just weighs so much more. I feel the difference. So I think we need to focus on our own personal journeys as far as forgiveness goes. Because you can't carry that weight, that burden for them. If that young man chose to remain angry at Amber Geiger for however long, guess who has to carry that around? Him. None of us help him with that weight. None of us help him. None of us are there to be his support and say, it's going to be okay. I have your hand. Let's talk about it. No. So he chose what was best for him. That was his journey.
And he chose to honor his brother's legacy because he said that that's something his brother would have done.
Right. That's how his brother would have responded. So guess what? That's how he was brought up. That's what he saw around him every day. So that's who he was in that moment when it came time to decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to decide to forgive this person and release myself? Yeah. Or am I going to carry this longer?
And he also said, the sister also spoke on it. I read a statement that she had written, and she said, she made the statement that she wasn't there yet in terms of hugging the young lady, but she did forgive the young lady. Right. And she respects her brother's decision to hug her. Absolutely. She just knew that wasn't her path.
And I've seen a lot of people mention, well, he didn't have to hug her. You are absolutely correct. He didn't have to hug her. That was his choice. That was his level of forgiveness.
It's a personal journey.
That's where he took it personally for him. That's what he needed to release himself. It's not up to us to decide if he should or should not hug her. No, he doesn't have to, but that was the choice that he made. Who are we to judge that choice?
Right. I mean, when we went through the trial for my mom, some family members wanted death penalty. And me personally, I don't believe in death penalty. I don't believe as humans that we have a right to set someone's death. I don't believe we have a right to say when your time is up. We don't have that